What's good, guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel, and in today's video I'm basically going to give you guys a little trade recap on a trade that I took today. And this is a trade that I unfortunately lost, but that being said, let's get into the video. So the reason I took this trade was because of this daily liquidity sweep over here, right? I saw that, hey, there was a liquidity sweep, and because of this liquidity sweep, um I looked for an entry, and I looked for more confluences. Before I do get into the video, I'm already in the video, but before I talk about the confluences, I just want to say that this daily liquidity sweep over here isn't a valid daily liquidity sweep, but I will get to that near the end of this video. But with that being said, let's talk about the other confluences that I used before I entered the trade. So obviously we got that daily liquidity sweep over there. And after that daily liquidity sweep, I wanted more confirmation that this was actually a valid liquidity sweep. So I looked for a break of structure, which I got off of this candlestick, right? This candlestick fully broke structure, right? Broke past this line of break of structure, right? Making it a valid break of structure. So that's the second confluence that I used. The third confluence that I used was, and excuse me for all of these random lines, I'll talk about that in a bit, all right? But the third confluence that I used was, if we go on the 1 hour, that's the 1 day, my bad. Right, on the 1 hour, we got this 1 hour fair value gap. That's the third confluence that I used. And if we go back on the 15-minute, actually, before we talk about the fourth confluence, I just want to, talk a bit about this fair value gap. So if you guys can see here with this little wick, right, this little dip in the fair value gap, right, that's where my fourth confluence comes in, right? We go on the 15-minute, right? I basically saw this dip into the fair value gap, and then I looked for a break of structure to the upside, confirming that it was gonna continue to go up, right? So I thought, I saw this little boom, right? And then in this area, right, I thought the break of structure, right, like let's just say that was the line. I thought that was going to get broken past, right? And I thought with this break of structure, that's actually what happened, but that's not what happened. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I thought what happened was that that break of structure line got broken past and that it would continue going up. But unfortunately, that did not happen. All right, and let's talk about that. So this break of structure line, it was from this swing high and that swing low, right? And then that was the break of structure line, right? Initially, while I was in this trade, I thought that this candlestick right here, this green candlestick right here, it touched above this break of structure line, right? It passed above this break of structure line, making it a valid break of structure. But something that I now realize, right? If we zoom in, right? This candlestick, I like fix it a bit, but this candlestick didn't break structure off of this line. It touched the line, it touched the break of structure line, but it didn't break past that break of structure line, right? For it to be a valid break of structure, it needs to pass over that break of structure line, which it didn't here. It touched it, but it didn't pass over it, right? But that's not why I entered this trade. It's not because I thought this candlestick broke over the break of structure line, but rather this one over here, the red candlestick beside it, I thought that this was a valid break of structure because as you guys can see, the candlestick opened above this break of structure line, right? So in my head, I thought, hey, because it opened above that break of structure line, it's going to be a valid break of structure. But something that I'm now kind of rethinking is that, yes, it opened above the break of structure line, but it didn't necessarily close above that break of structure line. So now looking back at this break of structure, I don't think that this was a valid break of structure, right? And I don't think this was a valid entry, right? I think this is a invalidated break of structure, and yeah, so that's just what I believe. It might actually, I'm not sure. because I don't know if, like, yes, it passed over the break of structure line, but it's just like the way it opens. So I don't know, like, can open, like, if your candlestick opens above a break of structure but then closes below it, like, does that count as a break of structure? I'm not sure, but like, looking at, like, my trade, obviously my trade got invalidated, and I believe it was strongly because of this little break of structure thing that I thought was a break of structure, right? I feel like if this was a valid break of structure, it probably wouldn't go back to the fair value gap, but like rather just continue going higher. That's just what I think, though. All right, so that's the fourth confluence that I use, that break of structure right there. And something that I mention in a lot of my videos, right? Something that I mentioned is to be super, super, super analytical, right? And that's something that I once again did not follow, because if you guys can see here on this 1 hour time frame, right? We got this 1 hour liquidity sweep, which, like, while I was taking this trade, I didn't acknowledge, like, I didn't see that there was a liquidity sweep. And if I saw this liquidity sweep, I probably wouldn't even take this trade. But unfortunately, I didn't see this liquidity sweep. And I think that's also probably a super big reason why my 1 hour fair value gap got invalidated. All right. And I super quickly just want to talk about my stop loss and my take profit. So if we go to 15-minute, this was my take profit right here. This line, right here, that line, that was my take profit, right? I know it's another mistake that I probably made was that I made my take profit like pretty high. Like, I could have put it like at this line over here, but I don't know. Maybe that's something to learn from as well. Maybe to, minimize my take profits. Who knows? But yeah, and my stop loss was this line. If you guys can see this blue line over here, that was my stop loss. It was like right below the 1 hour fair value gap, because I thought, hey, maybe price might touch into the fair value gap like it did over here. But I thought it would go up, right? It would just touch into the fair value gap to get momentum and then just go back up. But that's not what happened, right? It touched into my stop loss. I thought, I was pretty confident that this fair value gap wouldn't get invalidated, but like that's why I put my stop loss like right below the fair value gap, like right below its invalidation point, because I thought it wouldn't get invalidated. But I mean, unfortunately it did, and yeah, I lost the trade. So the last thing I want to talk about is the daily liquidity sweep. And I know I said in the beginning of the video that this wasn't a valid liquidity sweep. And the reason I say this is because when I took the trade, the liquidity sweep, right? The candlestick that was the liquidity sweep that created the liquidity sweep, it was still forming, right? And for those people that, know day trading, or that like know a lot about liquidity sweeps, right? You guys would know that to have a valid liquidity sweep, you would need to wait for the candlestick to fully close until you actually get that valid liquidity sweep. But yeah, so that's really it. That's really all I wanted to say on this video, right? So I unfortunately lost. I lost how much? How much did I lose? I lost $80 from this trade. So pretty big loss, at least to me. But hey, I mean, with that being said, I'm gonna keep learning. I'm gonna keep getting stronger. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, or great rest of your day, depending on when you're watching this. But yeah, with that being said, peace out.